אז לכל משתתפים תודה, אני אתקדם מפה באנגלית. אז first of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the Science Abroad Industry webinar. This is my first webinar for Science Abroad, so for those who don't know me, I'm Yona Zimmerman. I joined Science Abroad 5 months ago to build up and expand the industry track of the organization. That means that I connect between Israeli scientists who are living abroad together with the industry in Israel. So if you want to connect to Israeli scientific talent, or if you're an Israeli scientist looking for any kind of collaboration in Israel, if you want to start a new venture or you're looking for a job, then we're here for you. Before we start, a couple of administrative notes. So first of all, these webinars are just one of the many activities designed by Science Abroad to connect with Israeli scientists studying and working abroad with Israel. We do this with the generous support of the Center for Integration in Science and the Business Innovation Department at the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration. I invite you to go to our website to learn more about our other activities. It's scienceabroad.org.il and click on sign up, and I'll post the link in the chat screens shortly. This webinar is recorded, so it will be available right now. It's already on Facebook Live, but it will be recorded and available on Facebook and on our website in a couple of days. So, as part of my work, I'm going to be running a weekly webinar talking to leaders and innovators who are at the pinnacle of the ecosystem in Israel. During our chats, we'll hear their stories, we'll get their insights into challenges and opportunities in Israel, understand what relevant collaborations our guests might be looking for, and of course, answer anyone's questions. So without further ado, I am thrilled to announce my first guest, Yossi Börnstein. Yossi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So I first heard you, Yossi, speak at a conference in 2017, and I have to say I've been a groupie since. Your LinkedIn is pretty impressive. You're the founder and CEO of Shizim Group. You sit on the board of numerous companies, and I know from experience that you speak at many events. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and where you spend most of your time these days?
So again, thank you. If I need to define myself, I'm an entrepreneur. For many years, actually, I was born like that. It's not something that you can actually acquire during time. I started as a medical representative in a pharmaceutical company. You know, the ones that visit physicians, convince them to prescribe drugs. I went all the way to a position to be a CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb in Israel, BMS. I was in this function a few years, and then I left and I opened my own service provider pharmaceutical company. I represented here in Israel 16 different international companies, such as Boots, 3M Healthcare, Fitline Beachams, and other. In 2000, I sold the company to Rafa, an Israeli company, an Israeli manufacturer and marketing company. And in 2000, I established Shizim. The idea was to give different services to the life science industry. So I started with a company that later on it's called CRO, but when I started, it was like different services for clinical studies. Today we are a major player in Israel for clinical studies, a company called GCP Clinical Studies, and we went also through this company to give education for how to deal with clinical studies, ICH guidelines, FDA, etc. We have already more than 16,000 people that went through our courses. It's a kind of certification course. A physician cannot actually make any clinical study unless he went through a course according to the European directive and the Israeli guideline. And then I have a pharmaceutical company which is representing international companies in Israel, medical devices company, medical cannabis. But few years ago, actually in 2011, 2012, I understood that to be a service provider is nice, but you know, you are growing slowly, but this is not actually what I want to do in life. As I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I wanted to go through all kind of innovations. We had many ideas, but we never had the opportunity to develop or to do an R&D. And to make the story short, we have now 3 innovation centers, one in medical devices, one in digital health, and recently we opened a new one for ophthalmology. We have 14 different startups in different stages. So we have already a company called Medical in the Nasdaq. We have another company that worth hundreds of millions of dollars, like Robotics, that developed a robot that can navigate a needle into deep into the body in order to take biopsy or for ablation.
So Yossi, I'm gonna stop you for a second because you do so much stuff. And I know that you mentioned you had a presentation. Would you like to share that with us? So I just think that if we see the words and the pictures, it'll all sort of be absorbed better into our brains.
Sure.
Okay, so why don't you share your screen?
Before I start, as you mentioned, I'm sitting in a pharmaceutical company as a board member, the company called Can-Fight. It's an Israeli and American company. It's a dual public company. And also I'm a director in the Microbot Medical and Exec Robotics, which also one of them is in the Nasdaq, as I said. So just I'll share the...
So do you spend most of your time today with Shizim, or are you involved in multiple things simultaneously?
So Shizim, it's a kind of a holding company today, which we are involved in 30 different companies, everything in biomed. This is our actually expertise from different angles and aspects, and that's what we do. We have, I'll show you in a minute, but before this movie, just to show you some numbers. So at Shizim, we have around 60 employees and another 180 employees in our portfolio companies. We raised up to now more than $120 million for our portfolio, and we have more than 230 patents. So we are really sitting in a major junction of the innovations in Israel. And as I mentioned before, we are dealing in clinical studies, innovation, marketing, R&D, and education. But in the education, by the way, you have few centers at Technion that we open in order to teach and also entrepreneur, postdoc, etc., how to go into market with an idea.
Fabulous.
I'll not go into it, but this is the structure of the company. But in order, this is our senior management. So about 4 years ago, we recruited Amir Pardo, which is very famous because he was the former head of the Mossad. And everybody asked why, because what's the connection between the Mossad and healthcare business? So since we decided to focus on digital health, and many things are coming from the security side, not only cyber security, but AI and machine learning and big data and many things that he was involved in, because in the Mossad there are hundreds of startups. The idea was to bring some of the knowledge into Shizim group, and that's what we do. We have Dr. Shuki Shurun. He was the chief scientist of Israeli DARPA, what we call Mafat. Rotem Shomrat came from EY, Ethan Segel from public companies on Biomed, Ron Ben-Ami was the CEO of MSD in Israel, East Europe. So we have senior people from the industry in our organization. And as I said, we have 3 innovation centers, medical device, Shizim Excel medical device, Shizim VS for digital health, and ILON for ophthalmics. In order, by the way, to create ILON, and it's relevant to this discussion, we connected to one of an Israeli, actually, professors that sitting in Mount Sinai for the last 25 years in ophthalmology, and we combine forces. He's bringing his knowledge, and we are bringing, of course, the marketing and everything that's needed in order to develop a startup, and we join forces. And this is how the mapping of our technologies look like. The names, I don't know if they would tell you anything, because some, I see that I need to start because, okay, so you can see it now. So I'll not go through all of them, just to give you a taste of some of the technologies. And in order to do it, I just want to go back a little bit and to show you a clip of 3 minutes to understand what kind of technologies we are looking for and what we are doing.
Introducing Liberty, the first and only fully disposable, affordable robotic system for endovascular procedures with a unique one-and-done approach by Microbot Medical. Liberty is a game changer, about the size of a personal device, affordable, disposable, and remote controlled. It eliminates the need for capital equipment with dedicated cath lab rooms. In addition, it is preloaded with a one-and-done tool that combines guide wire and microcatheter into a single device for outstanding performance. The Liberty robot provides linear, rotational, and tip control of its integrated one-and-done device, as well as linear motion for an additional over-the-wire device. With full control over tip curvature and stiffness for superior maneuverability and access, and without the need for constant tool exchanges, the one-and-done device drastically reduces procedure time and costs while enhancing the operator experience. While preventing exposure to ionizing radiation and reducing the need for heavy lead vests, Liberty's intuitive remote controls simplify advanced procedures while shortening the physician's learning curve.
Wow, that's crazy cool.
The Exact Ace robotic system, the only comprehensive robotic solution combining image-guided planning and real-time monitoring with precise robotic instrument insertion and nonlinear steering. Together with its synchronized patient body-mounted feature to compensate for respiratory and body movement, the Exact Ace robotic system delivers unparalleled accuracy and consistent outcomes.
We sell this robot already in the major interventional radiology centers in the United States.
This is how the Exact Ace robotic system is changing interventional radiology for good.
The triticum retriever is advanced over the wire. Upon entering the blood clot, the device wings are folded in an arrow-like configuration, offering a low-resistance profile with minimal disruption to the clot. As the device is pulled back, its wings open and retrieve the blood clot.
So this is actually just to give you the taste. We have, those two companies, we already have a track record. As I said, one is in the NASDAQ. The Exact is a company that it's still a private company, but worth a few hundreds millions of dollars. It's a platform technology under different, it could be MRI, ultrasound, CT, etc. And it's autonomous, completely autonomous. So it's the next generation. I can tell you that we got the third FDA just a few weeks ago for remote operating registration. So all in all, that's what we are doing. And again, I can explain about other technologies that we have, which are very fascinating, but still we have only 45 minutes. If you have any questions, anything you would like to know, if I need to use the presentation again, so I would do it. So it's up to you.
Okay, great. So first of all, I can see that there's a few questions that people have posted, so we'll get to the questions afterwards. But it's clearly fascinating. I think that one of the things that we're seeing in Israel is the development of the whole concept of bioconvergence. So I'd love your insights, first of all, bioconvergence in general, and then where do you see growth and in which sectors particularly? And even more than that, we know that there's a huge shortage of scientific talent in Israel. What industries in Israel do you think would most be able to utilize such scientists, in what sectors?
So funny enough, we are not in the bioconversion segment, in spite of the fact that it's a buzzword and everybody is going into it. And we decided to go into the digital health. Our focus today is, Israel is very strong. Again, I don't know if you are aware, but Clalit Health Fund is the second largest health fund, not per capita, but in absolute term worldwide. And since in the last 30 years or 40 years, they were collecting data, which we are the biggest source of medical data worldwide. And digital health based on big data, and there is a great opportunity in Israel. And many companies are going into this direction, especially after COVID, that gave us a big boost into development. We see, I can tell you that we have a huge deal flow of companies coming to us. Everybody has now an idea, because it's time to market is easier. You don't need to develop hardware, all kind of different regulation on medical devices, which take 7-10 years, even more. And time to market could be 2 to 3 years. It's very attractive to investors. And maybe we'll touch it later, because we have a problem of the finance in Israel. We have huge of ideas, many startups, but not enough financial resources. So this is our main focus. We would like to go on different, exact robotics. We started like 10 years ago, when everybody told us, there is no regulation for autonomous robots. So why you start to develop it? Who knows, But we are trying to get to see what will happen in the world in 5-10 years ahead, and going into it now, because otherwise it's too late. So, brain interface, it's something that we would like to touch very much. Quantum, and again, quantum is a very large item, but we are talking only on the medical side of it, and synthetic biology. So those are if you ask me, those are the segments that need to be developed. And of course, there is, all kind of other things which are, liquid biopsy, which is now also, many companies are going into it, but for us, digital health now, it's the future.
And do you think that's across the board? You're talking about globally or in Israel specifically?
Yeah, of course, globally, but Israel has a lot to offer because of the reasons that I mentioned before. So we can welcome any ideas that coming from different markets, and to do the R&D here in Israel. We have very good people that. One thing that I forgot to mention, like, in order to do it, you need data scientists, bioinformatics people. And since we have in the Army all those units of, A2000, 81, all these technological units, all those people coming out of those units, and they're becoming a resource for our biomed projects.
So that's very interesting, because, well, first of all, what would you recommend? A lot of our audience and the people who are listening are either people who are just finishing their postdoc, or they completed their postdoc and they're in the first few years of their work in the industry. What would you, and many of them are either seeking to come back to Israel or collaborate with Israel. what words of advice would you have for them, both in terms of returning to Israel and actually, being able to integrate into the industry, and also in terms of if they've done they've got either a startup or they've got some kind of research that they believe can be moved to commercialization, who should they connect to? What words of advice do you have for them if they want to collaborate within the Israeli ecosystem?
So I will start from your last comment. Actually, we at Shizim are looking for any new idea. Okay, we have a huge deal flow, and I can tell you we see hundreds of technologies. We have a dedicated team that look into it. At the beginning by like a PowerPoint presentation, it's a go no go. Then if it's interesting and fits what we are looking for, we are inviting through Zoom or face-to-face meeting to hear the entrepreneur. And if it's interesting, and by the way, most of the technologies that we see recently, especially in digital health, are what we call under the radar. You cannot find them in the internet. You cannot find them in any public web or any list because of this. By the way, because of the sensitivity also of the IP know-how, especially on the digital health technologies. So first of all, Shizim is welcome any new idea, even if it's really no proof of concept, nothing. We can analyze if it's something which can be done, and of course, if the person could be involved, this could be a good platform even to come over to Israel and to be part of us. I can tell you that just recently we recruit a newcomer that made Aliyah, not Aliyah, because in a way she spent a few years in US from in one of our project of genomics, and she's part of the team now. Actually, a big asset for us. So we are welcome these people. Other directions, I'm not involved on a day-to-day of other institution or bodies that are taking care of those people, but there are a few sources that they can look into it, like IVC, to involve in some even international or local conferences. There are about 5 major conferences in Israel in biomed. Actually tomorrow and the day after tomorrow there is one, MIXI, and this is also a good place to do networking and to meet people.
Okay, wonderful. Are you going to be at MIXI? I'll be there on Thursday. So, okay, I'll see you there. Wonderful.
We are silver sponsors, so
Okay, wow. Right. Okay, I think I saw your logo. Okay, now there are some of the questions that I've heard, or the concerns, especially from sort of the people who are just transitioning from academia to industry, is the challenge of overcoming the fact that they have no experience. Now, I believe it's just a matter of translating from, your academic research into the words and the language that the industry uses. But I'm sure it's not that simple. So yeah. For the sort of the younger people who are just getting into their first jobs or looking for their first jobs in the industry, how would you suggest that they sort of rewrite their story or their narrative to present themselves as qualified for industry work?
So always, to start the first job is challenging. Everybody is looking for experienced person that already has, worked for a few companies, etc. But all those people, the experience started from scratch, right? I mean, they had to find the first company to work with. First of all, in order to do it, and this is one of the things that we are doing with the Technion, we have a course, which is a kind of graduating course, 32 hours about how to develop a product, medical product from idea to market. And we'll go through all that major junction. It's not something that after the course you can start, a startup, but it gives you a very large and knowledge about the system, how it works, to whom to go, even, because many of the time you don't have people which are working in the company. You get different services, on reimbursement or regulation or clinical studies. Not necessarily that all those people working in a startup. So, but at least they know what they should do. It's it's a catchy question because there is no yes or no or any guideline to say, what should be written in your CV in order to be attractive, etc. It's a very sophisticated market. In biomed, there is a lot of involvement of recruiting companies. I mean, if I'm looking for, if we are looking for a specific function in the company, so we have our networking, of course, which LinkedIn, whatever. But we work with a service provider for HR and giving the job description, and she doesn't matter, is looking for the right person. So it's in a more professional way, and we are not spending our time in order to review to make an interview with a few tens of people. And maybe to find those HR companies and to send, first of all, the CVs that would be available for them. So this is another tool to be used. I'm not inventing anything. But it's quite a good question. I don't know how to improve it.
Right.
LinkedIn is a good tool, by the way.
Yeah, I also think that
we recruit some people by LinkedIn.
Right. So first of all, next time you're recruiting, please come to us because we have this access to this huge database of Israeli scientists. Some of you are listening. I also think that beyond just the LinkedIn and the CV, there's also sort of an emotional transition of sort of graduating out of the academy, out of the academia, and going to industry. But we do have a question here from Natasha. So she said you welcome ideas and that you're open to hear from people. So she's asking, what is the model of engagement? So as you said, they would start with some sort of initial pitch, and then what's the process from then on? And then do they join an accelerator? Do you take equity? Do you work in different models? Tell us a little bit about that.
So our business model is a little bit different from because we are considered to be a combination of incubator, accelerator, and VC, all in one place. Now,
so
how we do it?
Take a step back, just very quickly. Let's clarify the difference between an incubator and an accelerator. Okay,
so incubator, especially in Israel, most of the incubators in Israel are what we call the innovation authority incubators, connected to the government. The government, you go to the incubators that take equity. Today's average is between 35 to 45% of the company. As they give you something like $800,000 for 3 years. They have some mentors. They teach you how to do the R&D, and after 3 years, they say goodbye. You are by yourself. You need to find your way to raise your money to do whatever, and therefore some of the, or I can say most of the companies are not succeeding to go through we call it the death, the valley death. And there is no product or no ideas because different reasons. So this is typical incubator. You come in with an idea. Sometimes it's proof of concept or prototype. It could be in different stages. Accelerator it's mostly about sitting in a place for, it could be a few weeks, it could be a week, it could be, and they give you a presentation, you have a case study, you go through the case study, you get the knowledge. VC, I don't need to explain, venture capital, they are looking for companies in order to invest. And when we are talking about Shizim, what we are doing, we built a kind of a holding company, for example, Shizim Excel. So it's not a VC. The business model is not a VC like 80-20, and we are not under rules of and no expectation from the investor's point of view. And when a entrepreneur coming to us, doesn't necessarily that it will be a company, it comes with a new idea for a technology. So we are asking for equity, but then we are offering evergreen. So it's not like temporary evergreen. Not only mentoring, we are involving in the day-to-day of the company. We have about 20 different mentors, not only necessarily working in the company, but one of the top service provider in Israel for IP, and lawyers, and people on reimbursement, and engineers. It's a multidisciplinary methods that support each one of the entrepreneurs in the milestones that he needs to pass. So we are surrounding them by professional people. We are also raising, we invest some money, not the big money in the company, because we are packaging the company. We are, if they don't have IP, so we at the beginning investing in IP, because this is the assets at the end of the day of the company. And we bring the company to be ready to present to investors. So then we go hand by hand with them to the investors. We have our own investors, serial investors, family offices, angels, that they already invested a few times in our technologies. They know us very well. They invest the first money later on, round A, round B, round C, whatever. But we are part of the systems that responsible for this function, and we recruit the right people for them. They are located, most of them started in our offices, so we have space for labs, for whatever needed. So, and they don't need to start to use their management skills for doing accounting, all this administration, logistic. We do it for them on a cost basis things. They got half a year free of charge because we want them to grow. So this is our business model. And meanwhile, during the last, I can say 7-8 years, we already took ideas. We are co-founders of ideas, and now they are in the market in United States. So Microbot, Microbot Medical and Exec Robotics, we are also co-founders of the company.
Amazing. And you mentioned that Shizim's raised 120 million, I believe you said. And then when we spoke earlier, you said that it's interesting that most of the funding has actually come from abroad. So you guys are based in here, you do all your research, you do all the development, but the funding you're finding is coming mostly from abroad. Is that accurate?
Yes, so 90% of this investment came from Europe and United States. And the reason, as I said, there is a huge help of, for example, of the Innovation Authority for matching funds, from the governmental funds, but also most of the programs are about, let's say, in general, 50% matching. So, we need 50% to bring from private investors. And this is in Israel very challenging because we are competing as medical technology with technologies which are like more attractive today, cyber, high tech, many other things, which again, the time to market is shorter. Sometimes you need less money, and there is a big competition, and a lot of investors in the past, where they spent already money on medical, they failed. So they don't want to put more money into it. And if you are in the medical device field, who are today the people that have 7-10 years of patients to wait with many other, ups and downs, and who knows what will happen in 10 years. So it's very, very challenging, and we don't have enough resources, not enough governmental resources, not enough private resources in Israel. And therefore, we need to look for other alternatives.
And so you raise mostly from the States?
Yeah, mostly from the States, Europe, European investors, family offices that specialized in medical, even the VCs in medical that are available today. Most of them are in the last, a VC, you have 7 to 10 years period, which you need to bring back to your investors, the money back plus, 2, 3, 4 times the money that's invested. And most of them are already in the last years of the period. So they cannot anymore invest in companies that, in 4 or 5 years will have a product, or 3 years. They are looking, some mature companies, or even if they needed to be invested more, or as I said, digital health, which the time to market is short. That's what they are looking for. So therefore, we need to involve other. I just came back in September. We went, 3 of us, to a roadshow in the United States to raise money for our portfolio company, as well as for Shizim Excel, for the Innovation Center.
Wow, very interesting. And I guess, we're all sort of feeling the acceleration of time when it comes to bringing things to market, and the pace that technology itself is developing. Sort of something that you start now in 5 years can look completely different, just because the science and the technology is developing faster than you're developing your own product. It's crazy.
And in medical devices, it's very difficult to keep things under the radar, because you need clinical studies, and so if you want to know who are your competition, it's feasible. With digital health, you can come with a great idea, and 2 months later, somebody, from nowhere, come with the same idea, because it's very difficult to protect and have an IP on algorithm. And okay, you have this algorithm, somebody found another model, so it's not easy mission.
Right, it's high risk. So I can't believe it, but we're almost out of time. So we have 20 minutes left. If anyone has questions or would like to ask a question, you can send it either on the chat or unmute yourself. I'm also just going to look on the Facebook for a second to see if anyone's asked questions there. So Yossi, in the meantime, while we wait for anyone else who has questions, tell us a little bit about, where do you live? Where did you grow up? Tell us about yourself.
So, wow, this is another presentation, because this is my professional life. But if we go to my little bit, not really personal life, but I'm dedicated my life in the last 16 years to do a huge project in Poland connected to Holocaust and Judaism. My father was a Holocaust survivor. He was in 6 Nazi camps, including Auschwitz, with a number, etc. And I do a huge project in Poland, especially in the town where he lived before. Directly and indirectly, I published already 7 books in Polish. I don't speak the language, by the way, but about stories of survivors, etc. Going with schools to Poland as a second generation, now unfortunately first generation is start to be too rare to get. They are very old, they cannot be anymore. Going with schools, we do already. This year would be 15 years that we do a Jewish festival every summer. Many other projects. I believe that at the end of the day, we need not only to educate the Israelis what happened in the Holocaust, but especially we need to give this knowledge to people in Poland, maybe in other places, but I'm focused in Poland. That's what I'm doing. That's where I spent money. And I live in Rosh Hashanah. The office is in Rosh Hashanah. So it's very close and convenient for me. I don't need to go anymore, to go in the rush hour now to Tel Aviv. I don't know, for the people who didn't visit in the last 2-3 years, Israel, the roads are really catastrophe. You can sit on the road, and so I'm trying to avoid it. Even during the day, not only rush hours. Tel Aviv became to be a very a city with a lot of traffic. So I have 6 kids. So I'm in the second chapter of marriage, of 4 and 2, and my smallest child is 8 years old, and this is a story by itself. So
it's interesting actually that you talk about traffic. I mean, not interesting because I've experienced it and it's a catastrophe, but something else that we didn't touch on is the geographical sort of distribution of tech companies in Israel. Natasha, I see that you've sent a question. I'll answer it in a second. Yossi will answer it in a second. But Yossi, let's talk a second about how sort of, I don't know, maybe it's just my impression that Israel's kind of, there were sectors of industries that are located in different regions. So, food tech seems to be developing for up in the north. In the south, obviously, it's, desert tech and ag tech. But how are you seeing the layout geographically in Israel?
So, most of the companies still are located in the center of Israel. Okay, not necessarily Tel Aviv, but it could be, Ramat Gan or Petah Tikva, whatever. There is a lot of Ness Ziona, yeah. There is a lot of budgets, sometimes governmental budget, in order to bring companies into Jerusalem, Haifa, Beersheba. And so there are, in the last few years, you start to see more and more activities in these places. But again, unfortunately, in the high-tech industry, we are located in Rosh Hashanah, and sometimes I'm talking with people, that living in Tel Aviv, and, reading for them is like the north border from to pass, and we call it like Tel Aviv.
A different country, absolutely.
It's a different state.
Yeah.
And especially in the last 2 years or 3 years, probably you heard about it. Employees are sometimes interviews the employer, and not vice versa, and the salaries and everything, because it was like a boom and a huge need because of the major R&D centers in Israel, and like we have huge offices of Google and IBM and many others. We are talking of hundreds of centers like that, and they are global. They pay good salaries, and they are located, most of them, in Tel Aviv and the area. So it's not there are all kind of activities in Natzeret, and in Haifa there is a special incubators that get governmental money and more, and even the matching is better, in order to attract those companies. It's hard. at the end of the day, you need that your employee will be ready to live close to the place where you do the R&D. So still major part of our medical industry and high-tech industry is in the center.
Right. Okay, so we have another question here, also from Natasha. She asks, is it possible to recap in more detail about what technologies are within your scope of interest for investment and or co-development?
Yes. So, I mean, from our point of view, we are looking for, you know, if I need to go for digital health, so anything that connected to patient journey, to genetics. You know, we have, for example, a technology which we hope it would be a breakthrough. It's already, we use it in, and maybe this example will show you the larger picture. We have a technology that from a simple blood test, from a pregnant woman in a week 7 to 10, which is very early, we can separate the embryo cell from the mother cells. In each one of the embryo cells, there is a kind of a small fraction of the DNA, and through a model, very sophisticated model of AI, artificial intelligence, we have a full sequencing of, you know, actually a DNA is more than 3 billion nucleotides, so we can have a full sequencing of the embryo DNA and give a list of tens or hundreds of malformations and mutations, and the validation is already 97%. So, you know, 2, 3, 5, 6 years ago, nobody even thought about this kind of information, and in 5 years, the tests that we do today, you know, will look to us like very primitive. So that's what we are looking for, ideas that will solve a real problem. We are looking for platform technologies, not only specific application, and then a huge market. Because, you know, we are doing the R&D in Israel, but our market, of course, is not Israel. We sometimes forget that we are only 9 million people, and we are thinking that we are in the center of the world. It's true maybe for other aspects that the market is not here.
Right.
I hope I answered the question. And
yeah, I think so, Natasha. If you have more questions, feel free. What was I just going to ask you? I lost my train of thought. Never mind. Okay, so we have another question here on Facebook from Nir Emunah. Thank you so much for the mind-opening discussion. I am a postdoc in the field of biomedical engineering, Yale, PhD at Technion. How can I be in touch with Mr. Börnstein in the context of bringing ideas from the postdoc research into reality? So how can people be in touch with you beyond obviously connecting to me through you or looking on the webinar and the other information?
So first of all, you are most welcome to give them my emails, my cell phone. This is my function in the company as well today, and I'm excited to do it. It's, you know, when you say engineer, it's again a multidisciplinary. Engineer could be on different sectors. We have many engineers in our portfolio companies. We are in, by the way, we are in the 3D printing as well, if needed, for medical, only medical, everything that we take things from different sectors and bring it into the medical. So we are today considered to be the only company worldwide that can produce in 3D printing an approved FDA silicone. Nobody else in the world can actually do it. So this kind of, an engineer came to us a year and a half ago with idea. We saw
medical grade silicone that is FDA approved. I mean, there must be 1 billion applications for that.
Yeah, and not only medical, but also industrial application. And you know, like two engineers came to us with this idea, which looks at the beginning very sophisticated, but it's very simple. We have a very strong IP on that. And a year and a half ago, we started one of the biggest worldwide producing of 3D printers already want to invest millions of dollars in our company to get some of the license also of the industry, not only medical, because most of the world is looking for different material which will be similar to silicon and can be produced by 3D printing. But in order to do it, which there are many options, they cannot go into the market or the medical market because they can go, but they need now 5 years of regulation, because if you change anything on implant, silicon implant, you need to start all the way from the beginning. And what the uniqueness in us, we are not touching the material. We take the material FDA approved, it goes out of the printer, we are not changing anything.
Fabulous, but can you manufacture that on scale?
If we can manufacture it.
Can you manufacture that at scale? I mean, it must take time
Sure,
to do that.
sure. I mean, today, you know, we can have a farm of 1,000 printers, because those are very cheap printers in you know, when you do it on a scale up, and whatever you need more, you have more printers. It's not an issue anymore.
Amazing, amazing. Yossi, thank you so much for being here. This has been incredibly interesting and insightful. I invite anyone who's got a last minute question this is your chance. If not, you're welcome to connect to Yossi on LinkedIn or get his email directly from me. It's been very interesting. Thank you. For everyone who's still here, I invite you to join me here every week. We're going to have guests on Tuesdays, including leaders from the biotech space, scientific entrepreneurs, VCs, as well as executives from sort of larger multinational companies. Yossi, you broke the ice for me for the first time, so I appreciate that. And I'll see you at Mixi on Thursday.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope I contribute anything to your important mission. Maybe if some of the projects would come through this, I'll promise you I'll come in after a few months to tell about it.
Would be wonderful. Oh, I do see we have another question. If you have another minute, quick question.
Sure.
What do you think about virtual companies that use CROs for R&D?
Wow.
We have 4 minutes.
Since I'm involving in a virtual companies for or a beginning of virtual companies on the clinical studies area, because also this field would be changed completely in the next years, there is a space for it, for sure. The question, what you offer, you know, what kind of service you offer in order to get it. But it looks, you know, the world is going into it.
Right. I think the world is going to anything that's virtual and, you know, distance safe and, wow, it's a new world. Yeah. Okay. Again, Yossi, thank you very much. I will be in touch with you, and thank you to everyone who attended and listened, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good day or evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.